I think there might have been a detail that a lot of people have overlooked, actually, when it comes to Zebec, which actually kind of got revealed recently. And I'll explain what I mean by this, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. So, by the way, did you know that recently, of course, someone by the name of Zach Rector, in his podcast, he interviewed Simon, which of course we all know by now is not Simon Cowell. It's actually Simon, the CEO of Zebec. But besides that point, Simon in that podcast, which of course I can't play the clip, but I'm just saying, he was asked about a Zebec ETF. Now, here's where things got a little bit interesting because Simon said something along the lines of how the Zebec ETF was on their horizon last year. However, they say their focus is on products, which is true because we take a look at this year, they did the super app, and then also in kind of almost 2 weeks, around 2 weeks basically, they're going to be launching the mobile version of that. So yeah, it's kind of true, right? They've been focusing more so on the products this year, but it doesn't change the fact that allegedly they were looking at maybe a Zebec ETF last year. That could have been a big clue right there. The reason why is because we do know that ETFs, they could provide some stability. The thing is, it doesn't mean it's going to be instant. It doesn't mean it's just going to automatically cause a project to become stable like that. Not necessarily, but we take a look at the Bitcoin ETFs, the Ethereum ETFs, take a look at what they have done for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Allegedly, in my opinion, to my understanding, I think probably a little bit more stability, right? Also a little bit more notoriety. Not to mention, I think just more sort of this institutional acceptance in a sense where some of these institutions, because they see those ETFs, they're less averse to kind of even looking at something like a Bitcoin or Ethereum, for instance. We've seen that historically, arguably, in my opinion. I think maybe, just maybe, right? If a small extent of that could kind of trickle down to Zebec, if we do ever even see a Zebec ETF, that's pretty impressive. I'm going to start dancing at that point because, yes, it's true. Sometimes people like to say, but the ETF won't really do anything just instantly when it comes to Zebec. Again, I do agree with that, but it could have major future, I think, long-term implications. That's the way I take a look at it because let's just take a look at, for instance, Avalanche. Now, Avalanche is a project that I'm a fan of. But the thing is, Avalanche as a layer 1 blockchain, of course, we know it's kind of popular, but the thing is, we now see actually 3 spot Avalanche ETFs in the US. The first being, of course, we saw VanEck's Avalanche ETF, which is on NASDAQ, but also on NASDAQ, we saw Grayscale's Avalanche ETF, so that's 2. But the third one is actually Bitwise's Avalanche ETF, which is on the New York Stock Exchange. So in the US, again, we have 3 spot Avalanche ETFs. But the thing is, AVAX, which is Avalanche's native token, it's still well below $20. Now, in case someone maybe didn't check Avalanche or didn't really care about it, it basically means it's still not doing good, right? If AVAX is still below $20, still below $15, yeah, that's not good, personally for me. But it doesn't really matter though, because I am looking to dollar cost average anyways. But besides that point, I wanted to use that example to kind of showcase that basically an ETF, yes, it wouldn't necessarily just affect, I guess, Avalanche overnight, or maybe just let alone any other project, but it could matter because I even saw a statistic not too long ago that actually almost 1% of the token supply was like held through those ETFs that I mentioned before. So that seemed very impressive. I saw something along those lines, right? So yes, almost 1% is like very negligible. Like it's kind of a rounding error, sometimes people like to say. But at the same time, that shows some progress there when it comes to Avalanche. And we're talking about 3 spot Avalanche ETFs in the US. So yes, the idea of a Zebec ETF, I'd start dancing if they ever do announce that, but I'm just saying it wouldn't really affect it necessarily overnight, but it could matter maybe in the future, right, as time goes on. But the earlier, the better. If we take a look at those Avalanche ETFs, the fact that they launched at the time that they did, which is very recent, by the way, but I'm just saying, given those conditions, I think it could set the foundation later on moving forward. So when it comes to the idea of maybe a Zebec ETF, that would be really fantastic if that could even happen, if that can even ever come into fruition though. But that's just a big if, right? I mean, we even know that Simon, he thought about, I guess, that last year, I suppose. This year, not really a focus, but I get it. Zebec hasn't been that massive yet. It doesn't really justify, I think, an ETF currently. At least some enterprises out there may think that way. But who knows, right? If let's say there's an altcoin season, hypothetically, if let's say the market sentiment were to pick up, and let's say maybe, who knows, Zebec starts establishing itself a little bit more, I guess, prominently, if it, let's say, kind of could stabilize somewhere along the top 50 or something like that, that right there, I think, could be somewhat more of a, I guess, motivating factor, right, for some enterprises out there to maybe, let's say, consider a Zebec ETF. But we'll wait and see. Or maybe like something massive like Grayscale. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. But this is just personally my perspective. A Zebec ETF, I don't think it's like too far-fetched. Maybe. Who knows? We'll wait and see. But I'm just saying, even the CEO already has that in terms of his mindset. That's the thing. We already kind of know that. So at least we already know that he might be thinking about that, right? I mean, he kind of did, basically, right? He said he thought about it last year, somewhere along those lines. But I'm just saying, I think that could be a good start because now we know that the CEO was already kind of like in that mindset where he is willing to have that, the hypothetical idea of a Zebec ETF. Other projects out there, I don't know if they're even thinking about that at all. But that kind of showcases the foresight, maybe, to a certain extent, when it comes to Zebec. Because let's take this into consideration. The amount of vision, the amount of motivation, the amount of sort of perseverance, the kind of see Zebec at one point being very small, right? It's not that big as of right now, kind of massive, but I'm saying not as small as before. Back then, when the market cap was quite small, we already even saw Zebec having these ambitions, right? And we're kind of seeing it come into fruition through the Algorand partnership, the Stellar partnership, the Ripple partnership, and not to mention Zebec back then having even like a backer like Solana Ventures and Circle. That's really impressive. So I think it showcases how even from day one, like their mindset was for the future like that. As the old saying goes, right? We aim for the moon and maybe we land somewhere along the stars. What does that kind of mean? It means that, like, let's say we aim for first place, even if we don't get it, maybe like third place, second place. You know what? Third place is still a bronze medal, right? The second place is still a silver medal. Maybe not first place, not the gold medal, but not that bad. At least there's a medal. That's just my mindset. So yeah, I kind of like that type of thinking, that type of mentality, I suppose, when it comes to Zebec. Zebec, of course, not that much ever since my last video, in a sense where it hasn't really done much when it comes to the price charts, right? But I'm just saying though, it's actually been down almost 1% in the past 24 hours. Yeah, nothing really major happened, but I'll keep everyone updated nonetheless when it comes to Zebec, so hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.